and a warm welcome to Enterprise Morning on Enterprise TV. We are back with everything that is worth your attention at this time, from the biggest stories to the headlines and everything in between. I am Choma Okoya.
And I am Henry.
All right, we head straight into our newspaper segment, but not without first inviting you to be a part of our community and have a say in what we say. We are at Enterprise TV 7 across all social media. You may subscribe, comment, like, and share. And you may also log onto our website at www.enterprisetvnews.com. Our guest for this segment is journalist and public affairs commentator Cyril Abako. Cyril, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Welcome to Enterprise TV once more.
Yeah.
Yes. Happy Children's Day.
Happy Children's Day, Henry. Hope you got some.
I got some.
Yeah,
I got some juice. I got some other things, but particularly this year's theme is titled "For Every Child, Every Right." Yes, and while we, take a look at this, I think it's very important we also remember Nigerian children. Over 20 million Nigerian children are out of school,
especially the underprivileged.
Exactly.
And sometimes, not as if we become underprivileged, but situations, the inflation that we get to experience over time just increases the number of out of school children.
Very true.
The years.
Well, we'll still say Happy Children's Day to our dear Nigerian kids. And let's move on straight to our news headlines today. And starting off, we're doing that with the Daily Trust newspaper. And the big story here says, Emirate hustle. Protesters hit Kano streets, demand Bayaru's return. And the writer there says, commissioners, LG chairs on solidarity visit to Sanusi. And don't destabilize Kano, opposition lawmakers tell federal government, plus other riders.
Okay, Tinubu's policies necessary but wrongly implemented. This is coming from Obasanjo, that is
right.
president of the country.
Yeah, it's very true. And on the bottom strip of the same newspaper, we have federal government sue 36 governors seek full autonomy for local government councils. And the writer there says, ask a Supreme Court to hold transfer of local government funds to states, won't end to appointment of unelected council chairs, and governors of forum silent. 3
killed, 7 injured as mosque collapse in Lagos. Details are on page 7.
Very true. And yes, 2 abducted Kogi University students killed. I think that's all we have for Daily Trust, and we'll move straight to Cyril Abaku and very interesting headline stories we have on the Daily Trust newspaper headline. Particularly, let's look at the abducted Kogi University students that were killed. We did it here. We analyzed it here. And we never knew this would come up on this very innocent kids who've gone to school to acquire education so they could be better off for themselves, their families, and for our nation. Unfortunately, like we always say, catchphrase, Nigeria had happened to them.
Unfortunately, Nigeria has happened to them. And, excuse me, there are many others whom Nigeria has happened to that we didn't even get to know about. Now, these students are not exactly children in the name of infants or children. They are adults, all right? But be that as it may, they are people's children. So they matter because they're Nigerians. They have the right to education. Their parents have trained them through school. And yes, they are children. But for them to have been abducted and killed this way, Kogi State wasn't particularly in the eye of the storm when it came to terrorism and insecurity. Not in the manner in which we... In fact, when Yabelo's theatrics were at a crescendo, he would say that he had survived an assassination attempt. Then he would come back and say it was not an assassination attempt. And you wonder what he was really talking about. But by and large, Kogi wasn't really... Yes. I mean, we saw nearby Niger State, even when Abuja was in the thick of it, Kogi was relatively peaceful. But something has happened. And the question is somebody not importing terror to Kogi State? Because terrorists are like maggots. They don't just... They're not wanderers. They go where there's something at stake for them. That's it. It's really the Nigerian brand of it. What is in Kogi for them to go and look for? How much can the Kogi State government pay them in ransom? What is the big thing about Kogi State? I feel that we are even too quick to call them bandits or terrorists, or even kidnappers. Yes, it's like hostage taking, right? But have we investigated to know what exactly it was for? What group really was behind it? What was the animus? Why did it even happen? I mean, because it's like when a student keeps scoring A's and one day scores an E, there should be a panel to question. That's how I see this thing. They're not central. We know Plateau State. We know Benue State. These are two. There's a Fulani problem with those states. Back in the day, it used to be Benue Plateau. And Benue Plateau consisted Kogi, of Kogi too. It was from Benue they cut Kogi out.
Benue Plateau, Nasarawa.
Yes, as one state, right? Then later on, they cut Kogi out of Benue. So the question is, if one happened to the other and didn't happen to the other, and after such a long time, is it that the time just happened and eventually it has? Can we even say that indeed this thing has come to Kogi too? Maybe not, because you need to look at the frequency and volume. Borno had that problem. Sokoto had that problem. Katsina had that problem. Okay, the frequency, sometimes weekly basis, daily basis, and then the volume of action or of operation. But even when there was a killing somewhere in the boundary between Kogi and Benue, we got to know that it was people that it was an influx from Benue also. But I think there had been a communal problem or something. So we couldn't call it what we're calling it now. Is this an isolated incident? Has this thing now come to Kogi too? We need to properly investigate the psychology of what's going on before we can even call it any name. Unfortunately, maybe it is institutional fatigue. And believe me, we are in a country where security may not even be the priority of a chief executive. He may be interested in stealing money and, you know, feeding his friends and his appetite.
Sorry
yes.
What do you mean by institutional fatigue? Can you throw more light on that so that we can?
Institutional fatigue meaning that when you see now in Nigeria, there's a boat capsize. There's been everybody's calling on Mr. President. Even in Kano, they're calling on Mr. President to intervene. He didn't have to. Let me explain. When you had police, they stand off at the Yabelos house in Abuja, that a policeman went to arrest him, and another police encountered them at that same place for 5 hours. Nobody made any phone call to say anything. Which means security in Nigeria was purely in anarchy. Because police can resist police from making an arrest. Somebody must give the order. They have an IGP of police who reports in turn to the president, maybe through the NSA. Now, are you aware that in Kano, the police said that they will obey the court order restraining the sack of Aminu Bayero. So, ask yourself a question. Why is it that a local chieftaincy dispute in Kano, they are calling on an individual to intervene? Whatever happened, why can't the courts be obeyed, for example? So in Kogi, for example, you see, the police is there. The DSS, I would like to think that in matters of internal insecurity, before you even talk of soldiers, the police must take, we should literally have the final say, really. But you will see them taking the front seat. So because they've been weakened over time, everybody will be looking past the institutions. It didn't that even the university security system itself should be enough. Why does the university have what's it called? CCTV cameras? Do they have the sort of perimeter fencing and stuff like that? That's when an institution is strong.
Because that's a community.
It's a community. Yeah. So when all these people have been weakened, everybody's looking at the governor. Now the governor has to visit them. The governor has to send money. The governor has to until the governor has spoken. If we are to have that, let's go back to the monarchy. Because a monarchy is a system where one man's word is law. He can wake up and change it. If he says ball is what he wants to eat when he's going to bed, ball is the national staple. If he wakes up and says what he wants to eat is rice becomes the national food. Why would you go back to that?
Okay,
very true.
Thank you.
It's all less.
Before we dive into, I just want to ask you a short question. Now, looking at the educational system and the rate of insecurity, especially in the north, now, what do you say poses for those in the south, in the west, and in the east?
No. Okay.
Now, that is one. Then, secondly, looking at the educational system, we've never had such attacks for private universities. Now, how are the security system for them? Are they special? I'm not praying that such should come to the private universities, but we've never had such attack for the private universities. It's mostly the federal or the state universities.
Let me say something. You know, earlier I was talking about perimeter fencing and so on. That was happening in Abuja about 4 or 5 days ago. Yeah. No fence, nothing. And they are just there. One day a politician will come and take part of the university's land and build a house and nobody can challenge him, it becomes his own, investors are usually placed on wide now in the Kogi State issue. I doubt if there is any government to invest in Nigeria today that is a finished project. When they build up to a particular point, they say they are launching, they are what's the word now? They are inaugurating it. You were asking me last week about National Library. This is the kind of thing that you find there. That project will never finish. Tomiland Bridge, I hear when they're going to shut it down for the surfacing. This work will never finish. So these schools, the question you're asking is, the private people are businessmen. If you hear that the academic people are a private university, will you? It's like that mark the end of their business, because people will not be worrying and be afraid of sending people. But because it's government owned, it's everybody's. So nobody really. In any case, how many people have money to send a student to where they bring 3 million, 10 million per 10? So the government institutions must wake up. I fear that what we even call terrorism and insecurity can be addressed from the angle of education. How do I mean? If we diagnose it and come to the conclusion that these terrorists are only after preventing school enrollment, and we target and we deal with it from that prison, we will even be able to solve the matter faster than attacking bandits who are just killing farmers and killing students from going to school or academic students. I suspect strongly that because in this, from Jengebe to all those places in the north, people don't want to go to school again. Federal government boys school in what's that place in Buniadi, where they go and park boys. But Chibok is not the only place. Even in Dapchi, that one that was clearly choreographed. So if you want to deal with Boko Haram and insurgency and whatever as purely an attack on education, that alone, I believe, will help us to get a solution to the problem.
Very true. All right, let's move on to our next daily for today.
The Punch newspaper and the big story here: Coastal Highway will boost 30 million businesses. This is coming from President Bola Tinubu, and we have two riders to that story. President says projects will foster trade, tourism, seek counterpart funding. Last rider, Tinubu insists landowners will get compensation. 700-kilometer highway, a symbol of unity.
All right, and on the top strip of the same newspaper, we have the government suit against the state governors over LG funds begin.
Cape Town, you get minor killed, others injured as evacuator hits Lagos mosque.
And yet again, outrage over brutal mother of Oyo Private University student. All right, fire on.
Okay, let's talk about this. Coastal Highway will boost 30 million businesses. Should we believe the president, looking at the previous stories that were told before now about him getting to talk to the Arab Emirates and opening up the city for Nigerians to still go visit visit UAE, and before now to the also talked about bringing in India to come deposit about how many $1 billion, and these are stories that have been told, but we've not seen any fruit so far. And now the president is coming to say Coastal Highway will boost 30 million businesses. Should Nigeria believe this, looking at the current state of the economy? The inflation is high, and talking about a lot of businesses closing down in the short while.
Yes. In his first year in office. Well, I mean, 30 million businesses is quite a stretch of the imagination. I don't know if we have a number of businesses in Nigeria actually. 30 million businesses in Nigeria. I don't know. And between Calabar and Lagos, 30 million businesses. And actually, the road construction alone will take about 15 years or so. So the president is talking, maybe he's estimating and just pushing to maybe in the next 20 years or so. That maybe he's giving a very long-term stuff. But unfortunately, this project is not a priority for me. And number two, I have my reservations about the way the whole project has gone. Some people brought what could have looked like an ethnic coloration to the project, which perhaps may not have been the case, except that the way government handled it now began to give evidence. But where we are today shows that because a government that wants to do a project, it didn't have an environmental impact assessment to understand how the project can affect the environment. The road was meant to be in front of landmark. That place shouldn't have been touched. Then they suddenly took it and kept it and brought it behind landmark. What was the reason for that? Nobody knows. Then they demolished part of landmark only to realize that there are deep sea telecoms cables that be affected if they continue to with the plan to put the road there. Now they're taking the road back to the original place. So why did you demolish the man's business? That's where we are now beginning to notice that. Is it that they don't know what they are doing, they're incompetent, or they are being deliberately wicked? You understand? There should be an explanation. You see, government does not behave. You can't go to a government school, for example, and not find that maybe they built a school and that there's no greenery. There are certain practices that a private person can come to a place, just get a flat and put a school on it. It's wrong actually. But all the schools I attended, well, I don't know but I attended government schools. There was always a play area, a playground, greenery, maybe even seaside, recreation. This is standard. It is not the standard of the missionaries or Europeans. This is standard. But you know, a public school normally will always have if you travel around Nigeria, anyway, I say a public school, you will see a field. Where community, you know, so all of those things have their purposes. Both for the weather, for agriculture, for a lot of things. Now, how does a government wants to do a project and they didn't carry out an EIA? That is criminal because it's unprocedural. So why are we talking about 30 million jobs? Why are we not talking about the misses we've already made? Now, the owner of landmark, landmark is not the only thing about the coastal highway, right? But the landmark, by what it is like one business that is worth 1,000 more.
Yeah.
Now, if you've been there, you know what I mean. Now, the president of 30 million jobs, I'm concerned about the fact that nobody's even talking. So now, have they done a new EIA, or are they going to do an EIA to check what it will not take them to put the road back where it should have been and things like that? They're not talking details. They're just looking for what to make headlines. 30 million jobs. It's non-existent. 30 million jobs. Look, for me, I think that the way to have kept 30 million jobs is to save the ones that are already on the ground, then add more to them. No, not to demolish the ones that are already thriving. And so where are they going to come from? When your interest rate is almost at how much now? The president is not talking about contracting the economy so that people will release spending power. Can people invest when spending power is on the back foot? It doesn't happen this way. So I don't know what the president means by saying that they're going to get 30 million jobs. It's seriously far-fetched.
Very true, very true. For the want of time, I think we might just have it rest here, for today. And of course, it's still Enterprise Morning Newspaper Review Edition.
Okay, when we return, are there 2 emirs of Kano or 1? Let's dive straight into this when we return. Stay with us.